Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the BIRMM Spotlight, and today I'm here with Professor Vandenbroeck, and we'll be talking about his SBO project that focuses on social well-being in Flemish primary schools, but more specifically on identity-based bullying. So for a start, can you please introduce yourself and tell us your role in this project?
Sure thing. My name is Vandenbroeck. I am a professor of sociology here at the Brussels Institute for Social and Population Studies here at the VUB, where I also had the research unit on childhood, culture, and cognition, which is a research group devoted to the study of early childhood, of primary socialization, of early social relationships. Yeah, that's kind of my role within this institute, and in the context of this particular project, I am the principal investigator of the project Primary Prejudice that I developed together with colleagues from the VUB, KU Leuven, and Ab Hogeschool. And as the PI, it is basically my day-to-day responsibility to follow the day-to-day operations of the project, together with our research coordinator, Mike Jappes, and our valorization coordinator, Marloes Hagenaar. So we're responsible for developing the research design, preparing the data collection, doing the PR, talking with people like you.
Yeah.
So that's basically a bit my role in the project, kind of keeping the general overview.
Okay, great. So can you tell us what the project is about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Primary Prejudice is an SBO project, really the first of its kind, that looks at what we call social and relational well-being in preschools and primary schools, with a particular focus on bullying behavior, school bullying. Yeah. Which unfortunately is still quite prevalent in Flanders today. The best statistics we have estimate that roughly 1 in 5 children report that they have been a victim of recent bullying behavior. And we kind of take that statistic as our starting point. 1 in 5, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But what that statistic also tends to conceal is that this only includes children aged 10 and older. The official statistics are really missing a lot of what's happening in preschool and primary school, for the very simple reason that it's only from about the age of 10 that children start filling out questionnaires, when you can actually ask children in large-scale surveys about bullying behavior. So we know from research that bullying happens much earlier. It already starts in preschool, and we're not capturing that. So in many ways, that was kind of the goal of the project. We know that bullying happens. It happens quite early, but the majority of the methods that we have are not very well suited to deal with young children. Lengthy questionnaires, focus groups, interviews. This doesn't work very well. So there, the idea is, well, the children just should follow our methods. Our methods should follow the children. And it's not because their standard methods can't map this idea of bullying in preschool and primary school that we should not at least try to come up with new methods of doing that. So in terms of the primary objective, it is mapping bullying behavior. Looking at bullying behavior and looking at a particular form of bullying behavior, which we call identity-based bullying. So the goals are to get a sense of how widespread is this phenomenon. Are there clear characteristics that make children or put children at risk of being bullied or becoming bullies themselves? Looking at the situational characteristics, like, are there situations that just promote bullying behavior or can prevent it? Those things. Looking at the role of teachers, that's also very important for us. The role that they can play in preventing it, in moderating it, or sometimes exacerbating bullying behavior. And then finally, that's also part of this project, we take a critical look at school materials, and especially textbooks. We'll talk about that in a second. We look at identity-based bullying. So we also look at what are kind of sources of social identity for children. How do children's textbooks talk about, prejudice, discrimination, stereotyping, bullying, and kind of how do they represent the world to children? So in a very big nutshell, that's kind of what the project is about.
That's quite insightful. So in your response, you mentioned a lot about identity-based bullying. So how will you describe that to a layman, and why is it really important to study that in the context of primary schools?
Yeah. So identity-based bullying is a form of bullying behavior. So that can be physical, punching, kicking, shoving. It can be verbal, insulting, name-calling. It can be relational, excluding, blocking children from participating, or material, just destroying other people's property.
Yeah.
We really talk about identity-based bullying when people get targeted because of one or more of their identity markers.
Yeah.
The color of their skin.
Yeah.
I don't like your skin.
Yeah.
Gender.
Yeah.
You're just a girl.
Yeah.
You can't play with us. Their body shape.
Yeah.
You're fat. We don't want to play with you. So really, identity-based bullying involves identity markers.
Yeah.
And we know it is a particularly pernicious form of bullying behavior, especially for very young children. It is tough to be bullied, but it's very tough to be bullied because of characteristics over which you feel you have very little control, like your body shape, your skin color, your ethnic background, your gender. So we know that this is a very hard form of bullying to swallow for young children. How prevalent is identity-based bullying? We don't really know. Some studies really say that all forms of bullying behavior, about half to 2/3, are usually identity-based. That will kind of be one of our objectives as well. Like how widespread is identity-based bullying? How often are identity markers involved when it comes to bullying? What is interesting to see is that there's been a fairly recent shift in discussions about the definition of bullying. So just a couple of years ago, UNESCO, together with scholars from the World Anti-Bullying Forum, kind of really decided we need to revise the definition of bullying. The original definition really focused on victim, victimizer, psychological traits, aggression, power imbalance. And really over the last couple of years, there's this growing awareness that bullying is more than that. It's really a social process that is not just about victim and victimizer. It really affects the entire school community. And what's very interesting to see is that there's much more attention now to the fact that bullying is tied into broader social norms, adult social norms. That when children bully each other, the reasons aren't always very childish. It's very often about children interpreting adult norms to target other children. Children who interpret adult norms about femininity and masculinity, about racial hierarchies, about class background. So these things very much filter into it. So it's really interesting to see that really in research now there's also this shift. There's more attention to identity-based bullying because we're starting to recognize that bullying is not that childish and very often involves things that children pick up from adults and kind of translate into their everyday life world. So there is this opening towards a more sociological approach to bullying behavior.
And can you please explain why the focus in Flanders or Flemish schools?
Well, first and foremost, that's where the bulk of our funding comes from. We really wanted to work locally. We wanted to be invested in our methodology is very much focused to be in schools, to spend large amounts of time in schools. And also because, Flanders already gives a lot of attention to bullying. Again, this week starts the Flemish National Week Against Bullying starts. So there's already a lot of awareness. At the same time, from like a research angle, you see that much has been focused on teenagers, adolescents. But not as much about young kids. We still very much think that bullying is something that teenagers and adolescents do to each other, and young kids that's just teasing. So that's really the idea there, that especially in Flanders, even though we have some data, we don't have very good data about very young children. And it plays there. It definitely plays among young children as well.
So in the introduction, you briefly mentioned the partners that are involved. Can you maybe elaborate on this? Who are the key partners involved?
Sure thing. We have a fairly large academic consortium of people. So the sociology department here in many ways pulls the study. So we focus on the issues of social identity, social relationships. That's kind of our focus. But we also teamed up with colleagues from the criminology department at the VUB, who played a very important role of kind of implementing and safeguarding a children's rights perspective. The study is really carried from a children's rights perspective. It shouldn't just be about children, it should also be with children. And it's really our colleagues in the criminology department, Professor Els Dumortier, who help us kind of go from the principle of children's rights to the practice. How do you put that into research practice? How do you inform children about what your study is about? How do you need to formulate particular types of questions? What type of situations do you need to create to make children feel safe? How do you tell children about the study afterwards? How do you debrief them? But also involve children in all those parts of the study, ask them for their opinion. So that's our colleagues in the criminology department who kind of help us maintain that children's rights perspective. Then we also partner with school psychologists from the KU Leuven, Professor Hilde Colpin, who has very extensive experience with studying school bullying, but with a particular focus on teachers. The role of teachers is very important in all of this, as I said before. Their focus within the project is really on the response of teachers. It's how teachers respond to bullying that in many ways plays a role in if bully carries on, or if it's stopped or if it can be prevented. So they very much focus on like how do teachers' reactions to bullying kind of influence children's perception of bullying behavior. So they're again also with that focus on identity-based bullying, and in their case particularly gender-based bullying. And then finally, something that's very important for our project is to keep a very close connection to the teaching profession, to the educational practice. So we also work together with colleagues from Ab Hogeschool in Antwerp, with Jan Ardis and his department, which is the preschool teacher training program. And they kind of have a dual role. We work with very young children, so they kind of help us to adapt our methods to preschoolers. But they're also responsible for helping us to translate our research results into something that teacher can actually use. So we really want people in the team who also come look at it from like that particular background. That's very important for us.
So you just recently completed your first fieldwork, and I was just wondering what was the experience like doing research with really young people, if there are any major takeaways.
There's so I mean, if we finished our data collection just before the summer, we did basically a year and a half of data collection. So experiences, I think in one word, intense. Like it was a very intense form of data collection. It's a very ambitious project. It involves multiple schools across the country, in different locations, urban, suburban environments. I think we calculated it. We interviewed close to 1,100 children, multiple times during the year. So at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the school year. So I think a tremendous achievement by the research team. Involved a tremendous amount of planning. So that was intense. People traveling across the country, interviewing children during school hours, and then very often observing during playground breaks. So like a very intense period of data collection, but also intense because it's emotional. I mean, it's a difficult topic. And you see things happening. You hear children talking about things that happen. So there was a lot of need for debriefing and kind of close follow-up as well. So you see things that are tragic. Unfortunately, it is very much present. You hear children talk about these things as well. At the same time, also very rewarding. I mean, one of the things we probably underestimated going forward was children's enthusiasm. Just whether we were in their classroom or on the playground, or doing individual interviews with them, they're always like very keen to kind of participate. At one point, we really had to introduce a system, because one child would go and talk with multiple interviews, do the same thing with multiple interviews, because we're so excited. So we kind of had to screen them and check them that they didn't kind of fraud us, So like we very quickly, because we went back on multiple times during the year, we very quickly felt kind of part of the social fabric. So their enthusiasm was very empowering in many ways, and also the teachers. I think teachers and principals, because we are in their life world, we are in their classes. They've been a tremendous help. So I think that was very important for us.
And finally, I mean, beyond the academic objectives that you have in this project, what are the policy objectives that you aim to achieve once this project ends? But also beyond that, how do you think that the findings of this project would ultimately help shape the way teachers approach bullying, and also, I mean, the materials that teachers also use, and the school environment more broadly?
Important question. Specifically for this project, what type of impact do you hope to generate? It's an important question, one that's very difficult to answer beforehand. But we are ambitious. We want to have impact. I always say, if this study ends in a website and a brochure, then I think we failed. That is for us. We really have kind of three target audiences. So children first and foremost. And like to kind of make children aware of the results of our study. teachers and
Yeah.
educational professors, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, that's a group, and then really the public at large.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of the three main audiences that we hope. And I think the good news for us is we want to be ambitious, but I think we can also create conditions to create impact.
Yeah.
Mainly because we have a fairly large group
Yeah.
of stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have more than 25 organizations that we work with. So those include the heads of the two major school networks
Yeah.
in Flanders, so the Catholic school network and the community-based GO. We work very closely with them.
Yeah.
We work very closely with NGOs
Yeah.
who, you know, are well trained in designing workshops, in informing children about, you know, issues of diversity, social identity. Savaria, Studio Globo, these are really organizations that, you know, have a very good track record of sensibilizing children about these issues. We work together with the public broadcaster,
Yeah.
Both their children's network, CatNet,
Yeah.
and their the network for adults, Canvas.
Yeah.
So we hope to really use them as well
Yeah.
to promote our project. But as you said, finally, also I think the connection with teachers and with teacher education programs. I think if we can generate impact and we can generate structural impact, it is to maybe also change the curriculum of teachers a bit. Yeah, because one of the things we really notice being out in schools, there's a very real demand of teachers and principals.
Yeah.
This happens. We try things. We don't know really what works.
Yeah.
And teachers also don't very often feel very well prepared to deal with bullying.
Yeah.
What's the best way to approach it? Should you silence it? Should you mediate?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where our ultimate objective is, to kind of, you know, also shape the curriculum of future teacher training programs, to kind of really, you know, give them tools. How can you detect it? You know, what should you be wary of? Which type of situations tend to, you know, what do you do when it happens? Who do you need to involve? I think in terms of the structural response, I think there is probably the biggest gains that can be made. So yeah, I think still very early days. Yeah, we were only very early into the project. We just finished our data collection. But I think what's very important is that we really already involve our stakeholders right now. This is not about, hey, here's the study, here are the results, take them and go with them. So we're going to meet again with them in a couple of months' time to talk about our preliminary findings, you know, to also actively ask them, what do you need from us? What type of data do you need from us? What works for you? Where are you know? And I think if you do that from the very beginning, I think you can probably, hopefully, generate a bit more lasting impact. That's our ambition, at least.
Great. Thank you so much for your insights.
You're
we
very
really
welcome.
appreciate your time.